Welcome to Go Vote Omaha, presented by the League of Women Voters of Greater Omaha. I'm Geri Simon, a League member and host for the program. Each week we talk about issues that are important for elections. We hope you'll discuss those same issues and then you'll be ready and willing to vote at election time. This evening we have our final show in our election coverage before the November 8th election, and we're going to talk about the Douglas County public safety bond issue that will be on your ballot for voting on November 8th or for early voting. Our guest to talk about the bond issue is the 2nd District Douglas County Board Commissioner, James Cavanaugh. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you, Geri.
Let's start out with letting our viewers know, let's talk about what is a bond issue and what's the county's process for determining that that's what you would use for financing something like this?
Good question. The bond issue process, I describe to people, is similar to a mortgage process. Some people are able to say, I like that house, here's $250,000, please give me the keys to the house. Most people say, I like that house, here's 20% down, and they go to the bank and they get a mortgage over a period of years to pay for the house. Bond issues operate kind of like that. We have excellent credit. Douglas County enjoys a AAA credit rating, which is the highest credit rating available. Bond interest rates are at a super low, I think about 2.25%. And we are retiring some bonds this next year that these bonds that hopefully will be approved in November would take the place of. So they would allow us to use our excellent credit to finance essential improvements in county facilities and services without a tax increase. And so essentially we're using the most prudent fiscal tool in our repertoire to give the residents of Douglas County the highest and best public safety service that we can afford them.
Okay. And why does it need to go before the voters for a vote? Why can't the county board just decide they're going to let the bonds?
Right. There are legal requirements in the Constitution of Nebraska and the statutes that say if you're going to go to the bond markets and float a bond issue, you must get a vote of the people to approve that. Some bonds, a vote is not necessary, but the type of bonds that we're talking about and the type of projects that we're talking about, it's legally required that the people vote on it.
Okay. And was this a unanimous decision of the county board?
It was. We had a full discussion over a period of months regarding the structure of the bond issue, what was going to go into it, and how we would use the proceeds. And after a full, analysis of our options, it was determined by the entire board unanimously that this particular bond issue and its component parts was the best and wisest use of our credit.
Okay. And the bond issue on the ballot, well, how long will it take for us to pay back the bonds?
About 20 years.
20 years, okay.
Yeah.
And it's $45 million bonds.
That's correct.
Okay.
But a couple of things play into that. We have, as I indicated, excellent credit, and so although it's going to be over a period of years, we'll secure the lowest credit or the lowest interest rate available in the bond market to finance it. And some of the things that we're doing in the package itself will generate revenue. So we're actually closing down some facilities that we own, and we will sell those. And we are getting out of leases that we currently have facilities in, and we will capture that income as well. So well over $2 million over the life of the bonds will be captured through these savings just in consolidating our facilities into basically buildings that we already own. And I tell people, it's kind of like I own a house, and so I don't rent an apartment. And we own this facility, and yet we're renting outlying facilities for different units of county government. So we'll bring those into a facility that we actually own. We're going to have to upgrade that like you would in any facility, but once we have it, we're no longer going to be paying rent. So that's another savings.
Okay.
It's a big thing in motivating us to go this route.
Then once the bond issue is passed, when do we start having to pay back the monies?
It's, as I indicated, similar to a mortgage. You start paying them immediately, but the early payments are primarily interest payments. And so for the first 5 years, they're pretty much interest-only payments. But over the period of the bond, we calculate that not only will we be able to pay it out of current revenues, but we'll be able to pay it as a small percentage of our overall budget. It would amount to about 0.4% of our overall budget to service these bonds.
Okay, so pretty much a guarantee to taxpayers their taxes are not going to go up because of this bond issue.
There's no guarantees in life, but as much as we can say, based on our analysis and that of our fiscal staff, we're confident that we've identified cost savings which will enable us through incremental debt service over a period of time to pay off these bonds without any increase in the current county mill levy.
Okay. Well, let's get into the details of what's in the bond issue. There are three major areas. And the first one is 911 emergency communication. And I think on that one, a lot of people, frankly, were appalled at the situation that happened several months ago where a victim of a gunshot wound couldn't be located right away because of glitches within our 911 communication system. So did that help drive the need for the bond issue?
It did, and that's not an isolated incident. So over time, technology wears out. I have a cell phone, and it's probably replaced about every 18 or 24 months by my law firm, simply because new ones are available and they want us to have the latest technology. The same with PCs or laptops. And so in the course of 911 operating as long as it has, the technology in use there, much of it is obsolete or approaching obsolescence and needs to be upgraded. In order to secure the shortest response time of first responders. If you call 911 and you have a fire in the attic or you have a burglar in the basement, you want a first responder on your doorstep as quickly as possible. If that's the case, this bond issue is what you want, because we are going to totally revamp the 911 communication center. We are going to put it in an upgraded facility and take it out of its cramped, obsolete structure now. And we're going to give communications equipment to first responders that will communicate not only with 911 but with each other. So we are talking about needed technological replacements so that the things that you described, and there have been other incidences as well where simply because of technological changes, it's been difficult for 911 to determine where the call is coming from. Mm-hmm. And that's essential if you're going to send a first responder to the scene of the request. So we will do everything that we can within available technology to give us the best current available emergency communications facility and hardware that the people of Douglas County expect, and keep our response time for first responders as low as possible. So.
Okay. And does this also allow across county, like somebody's in Sarpy County, does this help in terms of being able to communicate with other counties in terms of the need?
We are, a region here in Douglas County, Sarpy County, Washington County, even Pottawatomie County, and the first responders in that region need to be able to communicate with each other as well. So our first responders, and this is police and fire, not only in Douglas County, but in the city of Omaha, in the city of Ralston, the city of Bennington Valley, rural Douglas County, having the ability to have the best communication equipment, whether they're communicating with each other or they're communicating with the Sarpy County Sheriff's Office or the Washington County Volunteer Fire Departments. So the upgrade in the Douglas County first responders and our 911 capacity will benefit everyone in the region.
Okay, great. Let's talk about the second part for the bond issue, and that's concerning the Douglas County Corrections Center. So if you'll talk about that. First of all, for a lot of people may not know, where is our Douglas County Corrections Center?
That's a good
what
question.
What building is it in?
So the public safety campus that is going to house the 911 center is at 156 in Maple. And it's a 35-acre campus that Douglas County owns and currently houses the Sheriff's Department and some county engineering facilities and other functions. So we are going to consolidate into that 911, the emergency services people, the environmental service people, and other county entities to form a West Omaha campus of county services. The correctional center is downtown. And it goes from about 16th Street to about 19th or 20th Street, from Leavenworth to about Jackson Street. It's the largest correctional center in Nebraska. It's bigger than the state penitentiary, and it houses over 1,500 people at any given time. I think that currently it's closer to 2,000, and it's at an all-time high. It was built in the 70s and 80s in stages, and like a lot of things that were built in the 70s and 80s, it needs maintenance, and things wear out. I have an older home, and every year we dedicate X amount of our resources to maintaining the home that we live in, whether it's gutters or a roof or a sidewalk or a deck. You have to do that if you own property. Well, this needs the same type of maintenance, electrical and plumbing, but also, because it is a correctional center, it needs maintenance to cell doors and the plexiglass windows that are in those doors, which are 30 years old and don't work as well as they should, or new, more secure models are available. And it's important for us to secure the safety of the community, the correctional officers, and the inmates at the correctional center to have the best facility possible. So these are maintenance items that have been deferred over time. You can only do that so long, and are needed now. And so we are, because it's part of public safety, including them in this public safety bond issue, and we're going to fix those.
Okay. And then the third piece is really talking about the you touched on a little bit earlier, the consolidation and savings that we will get from having the bond issue. So talk about that.
And that's a pretty exciting thing, because it's very forward-looking. So the center of county government is at 19th and Harney Street. And 100 years ago, 19th and Harney Street was the center of population in Douglas County. The center of population in Douglas County is now at about 120th and Blondo, Maple, somewhere in that vicinity. And so if you live west of a certain point, to come all the way down to 19th and Harney Street is a long, long drive. And recognizing that, and recognizing that we have this large campus at 156 in Maple, and recognizing that we rent and own outlying facilities that we don't really need, and recognizing that we underutilize facilities that we own at 156 in Maple, some of the forward-looking elected officials at Douglas County, particularly the Douglas County Treasurer, have looked at this as an opportunity to consolidate some of their services, and this is where some of the real savings come in. get out of leases for buildings that we don't own, and relocate facilities in buildings that we do own near the center of population, allowing people, rather than traveling for a long time across town to transact their business, to have something closer to their home that we own that will allow them to do the same thing in a fraction of the time. This is a great thing, and I commend the county treasurer, John Ewing, and others for having the foresight to see this as an opportunity to upgrade our services to western Douglas County. It also allows us to bring some public safety services, like emergency services, from our Emergency Operations Center, which is currently at 19th and Harney Street in a sub-basement, and put them across the hall from our Emergency Communications Center at 156 and Maple in the 911 Center. And here's how that works. If you see a tornado in your backyard, and you call 911, and that goes to 156 and Maple. But then they have to communicate with 19th and Harney Street, which is in a sub-basement, and actually it has climate problems of its own in terms of occasional flooding, to say, turn on the sirens, there's a tornado. And so those operations will now be literally within sight of each other in the same facilities. And all the staffs of all of these operations, instead of having 3 or 4 break rooms, conference rooms, everything that goes with an office, can consolidate in one facility and consolidate around a working area where you don't duplicate these things. You actually realize real savings, so that over the period of the bond issue, more than $2 million will be realized just because we brought people together. But the operational efficiencies will be greatly enhanced as well.
Okay, but you're also improving the lives and working conditions for our county employees, many of them.
That's right. At current facilities, some of them are old and run down, and we don't need them any longer. Some of them are unsafe. I mean, if you go to the correctional center and you see some of the conditions that we'll be addressing, they're just not safe working conditions for either the correctional employees or the people housed at the correctional center. So in addition to making it a better place to work at 156 and Maple, we're making it a better place to work at the Douglas County Correctional Center as well.
Okay. And as far as what you mentioned was one of the things that drove getting the bond or doing the bond issue is that we've deferred upgrades. And how are we going to do ongoing maintenance to prevent that kind of thing over the course of the years of the bond issue? How do we build that into the budget?
We have been pretty frugal stewards of public monies at Douglas County. And so if you look at our budgets going back a number of years, and we just announced this year a budget surplus of about $5 million, a little over $5 million. And that's because of frugal budgeting. Those monies, a good part of those monies, go into a reserve fund. And one of the reasons that we have a AAA bond rating is that the bond rating entities, like Standard & Poor's, look at a variety of budgetary considerations in a governmental entity, and one of them is, how much do you have in reserves? And currently we enjoy healthy reserves that will allow us going forward to make needed incremental maintenance expenses without increasing taxes. If we had to do what we're proposing to do here, and we have to do it, taking $45 million out of our general fund would not only pretty much exhaust those reserves, but it would probably necessitate a tax increase, a property tax increase that I'm personally not in favor of. So I think that the alternatives are clear here. We can do what we need to do using our good credit because we've been frugal stewards of the public's money without a tax increase, or we can go into our reserves and pretty much exhaust them, do the same needed upgrades that we are going to have to do, and then seriously look at raising people's property taxes. So for all of those reasons, this offers us a much better approach to solving a problem that needs solving without raising people's taxes.
Okay. And I guess one question is there any real opposition to it? Why would anyone vote against this bond issue after you've laid all the information out? And
as far as I know, there is no organized opposition. I know that there are people in the community, civic-minded citizens and business and labor groups who have come out in support of the bond issue. And you'll probably be hearing more from them because they're actually promoting the bond issue in the public forum. But I haven't heard of any organized opposition. And frankly, if you sit down and you have an adult conversation about what we're trying to do here, there isn't really anybody who I think is opposed to 911 getting a first responder to your home as quickly as possible, or the correctional center being the safest place that we can have to work in and hold people in, or consolidating and saving in county government real tax dollars. So it's good public policy, and I hope that through the efforts of League of Women Voters and public outreach that you allow people to get information on it, they'll make a good decision and see that this public safety bond issue is a smart thing to do.
Okay, let's look a little bit at the ballot language. What will voters see on the ballot, and if they want to vote for it, how do they vote? What do they mark? What box on the ballot?
It's not always easy when you read ballot initiatives to understand what exactly is being said. And so to make it simple, the ballot language that you will see on your November 8th ballot begins, shall the County of Douglas in the state of Nebraska issue the negotiable bonds of the county in the stated principal amount of not to exceed $45 million for the purpose of paying the costs of upgrades and improvements to 9/11, renovations of the county's correctional facilities, and other public safety and public service improvements and equipment. That's the long and short of it. There is other language, but that tells you essentially the meat of the matter. We want the authority to get $45 million in bond. We're going to do these three categories of things with it, and essentially those bonds will be paid off over 20 years. If you agree with that, at the bottom it will say for said proposition. That means yes. If you don't agree, it says against said proposition. That means no. It could be a lot simpler, but lawyers write these things, and we had robust discussions with them about can we make it as simple as possible, and it's as simple as they think is legally possible to have it, but I'm trying to give it in the language that we all use every day, and basically that is $45 million in bonds. We're doing these three things, and we'll pay them off over 20 years. If you're for that proposition, vote for said proposition.
Okay. So let's see, where else can voters get information, any more information that they would like? You've given us a lot here, but there are I know some drawings of the buildings and other information about the facilities that are going to be upgraded.
Yes, various entities of Douglas County government, including particularly the county clerk, and I think you have the website
We
there.
do, and it's douglascountyclerk.org. If you go there, you can find more information.
Right. So douglascountyclerk.org is one kind of central repository. The Douglas County Clerk is the keeper of records for Douglas County. And there are other Douglas County websites that you can access through douglascountyclerk.org, where you'll find some of the same information. Essentially, we're trying to make it as available as possible to the entire community using all of the county's social media platforms. And so if you go to that one, you'll find other ones. You'll find initially some kind of bullet point information, and then you can click on for more information, click here, and drill down on particular areas of the bond issue, down to actual square footage and floor plans of particular components of the upgrades and improvements and build-outs that will be part of the bond issue's construction project.
Okay, and I think we're also going to put it up on our league website at omahalwv.org when we have the video of this presentation, and we'll have additional information there for people to look at.
That'll be great. It actually shows in some of the exhibits a before and after view of what some of the buildings will look like, what some of the interiors will look like. So it's pretty, comprehensive, and if you go through it all, you'll have a very, very, very good idea of what we're trying to do.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for being here. And
Thanks for
talking with us.
having me.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you. Be sure and vote.
And we have this, as I said, this is the last in our series of pre-election coverage before the November 8th election, and early voting has started. And so we hope that you will go to omahalwv.org in order to look at all the candidate forums we've done and other issue programs that we've done, the ballot proposals. We've done one on the death penalty and on the bond issue. We also want to remind everyone that our voters guide is out and available. There are hard copies available at area libraries, and you can also find it in a PDF version on our website as well, omahalwv.org. The League of Women Voters never supports or opposes political parties or candidates, and we always present our forums and information on candidates and parties for voter education only. So for the League of Women Voters, I'm Geri Simon, reminding you to inform yourself about the issues and the candidates, and on November 8th, go vote, Omaha.